My name is Jose Gonzalez. I'm the Director of Suspension Technology at Trek, and my background is with Kawasaki Motors in the 80s and 90s as part of the motocross and off-road competition program. From there I went to Manitou, first heading up the race program, working with riders like John Tomac, Sean Palmer, Lee Donovan, and then working into R&D. And I was the Director of Research and Development at Manitou for about 7 years. My total time at Manitou was about just over 11 years, and started with Trek last July. ABP is the concentric pivot that's located around the rear axle. The concentric pivot isolates the brake forces from the suspension function. The concentric pivot is located right in this area right here, and it consists of a bearing that rides on a spindle that's fixed to the swing arm. That allows the chainstay and the brake caliper to be independent of the rocker and the swing arm. The result is that when you're under hard braking breaker bump situations, the suspension is free to still continue to function, because one of the more significant advantages you can achieve is to get higher suspension performance in breaker bumps, square edge, and so on. Well, those are a lot of times the situations when you're on the brakes a little bit or a lot, and anytime you touch the brakes on non-ABP systems, the suspension stiffens up and it can't respond to the terrain nearly as well. You know, there's a lot of designs out there that when you're off the brakes will actually function very well, absorb bumps well, and so on, including our R1 system. But as soon as you hit the brakes, things change very rapidly. And the worst case scenario is actually in the middle of the stroke, which is your primary area that you work with suspension-wise when you're coming into square edge breaker bumps. You know, you're not fully extended, you're not fully compressed, you're right in the middle, and that's where the system needs to work. Well, that's where braking forces influence the suspension the most. So obviously the big advantage to ABP is when you're coming into severe breaker bumps and you hit the brakes, the suspension system remains active and is able to absorb the impact. What that does for the rider is it gives them a much more controlled feel, more accurate entry into a turn, and obviously higher cornering speed without any more effort of the rider. The bearing is housed inside the seat stay, and it runs on a spindle that's connected to the chainstay. So that creates your concentric pivot. So this outer retention nut here holds the entire system together, meaning that when you pull the skewer out and you pull your hub out, everything stays together. Installation and removal of the wheel is very simple and straightforward, similar to other QR systems. You can use any hub. It's not a custom hub. It's not a custom retention system. So any standard wheel will fit in there.